Hi, everyone. Welcome to Auda's VTH virtual town halls. My name is Auda Vasquez, and I am so excited to have you this week. We are celebrating Oceans Day, well, Oceans Week, I guess. The oceans should be celebrated all the time. And this week, I invited Andrea Leon Grossmann, who works for Azul, and she's going to tell us more about who Azul is and what they do. And I'm waiting for her to join me on Instagram. And I'm also will have her here on Facebook, on Twitch. Hello, Twitch people, YouTube, and Twitter. So before we start, I want to just encourage you to ask a lot of questions and to make sure that the conversation keeps going and is lively and is happening so that we can all have a constructive conversation about oceans and what's happening, what are some of the main issues that are happening in our oceans, and also making sure that you guys have a place on where you can be part of the solutions to our oceans' most pressing issues. So I'm waiting for Andrea to join me on Instagram so that we can start. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Please be sure to get your questions on our chat and on our chat here on any of the chats and also have just your comments. I know that we are all people that love our oceans, and I know that we all want to see a world that is healthy and that is clean for all of us. So Andrea, where you at? I just keep waiting for you and trying to get you in here. So let's see one more time. It says that you are unable to join. So let me just request you real quick and then let's figure it out how to get you in here. There you go. So I'll there we are. So I'm going to also bring you on this other part. Hi, welcome.
Hi, how are you?
We made it.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. So let's just start, Andrea. Maybe you can share with us a little bit about who you are and who Azul is.
My name is Andrea Leon Grossmann. I'm a climate action director with Azul. I am a Mexican-born immigrant. I've been here for almost 25 years, and I joined Azul about 2.5 years ago. And I just love working in ocean-related matters, anything that has to do with fighting industrialization of the coast and fighting to have access to the ocean for everyone, not just for a few. So those are my main goals.
Yeah, absolutely. And just so you all know, and that are joining us, we're streaming live on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and here on Instagram. So please feel free to ask your questions on the chat. So Andrea, I was reading a little bit about Azul and Azul's mission, and you guys are a grassroots organization that work with the Latinx community. Why Latinos Marinos?
Because we just know, I mean, when Marcia founded Azul, she just knew that just a whole ocean space was just too white, and we just didn't have enough representation. So we needed a space for the Latino community to express themselves and basically let other people know why access to the oceans and the coast was really important.
Yeah. Thank you. So this week we celebrated Oceans Day or Oceans Week. I guess Oceans Day was Monday, but you guys celebrated yesterday. And here we are to just kind of educate people. So what are some of the most pressing issues that you guys at Azul have been working on in terms of protecting our oceans?
So we fight industrialization of the coast to make sure that we not only have access to the coast and have a clean coast, but also anything that puts any kind of infrastructure, whether it's right on the coast or like offshore drilling, we don't want to have that, not only because it contributes to climate change, but we know that that type of infrastructure gets put in right where low-income people of color live, and that means where our families and our gente is, right? So we just need to make sure that we have a livable climate and coast that is basically available to all the public.
Beautiful. So yeah, so coastal access and access to low income communities Latinos, African Americans, indigenous people, people in the inland. I was amazed that when I work at the Sierra Club, we had people that we took to like, you know, to the ocean, to like hikes and things like that near the ocean, that they have never been to the ocean before. High school student and such. So, folks, sometimes we think that, especially for us that live in Los Angeles, we're very blessed that we have the ocean very close by, but there's a lot of people in Los Angeles that have not visited our ocean. So I don't know if you have any anecdotes about that work.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in meetings where we know that people who even live 10 miles in have never visited just because we don't have access. We don't have public transportation that, people can just hop into a bus or even a train and just get from one point to the other. And when
Yeah.
we make it that difficult, people just won't go. Or even parking. I mean, when you know that parking is $20 or $30, people don't have that kind of money to go and just park their car. So we really need to make sure that we have access for everyone. And even when the pandemic struck, we know that people, went to the beach and there was no parking. So only wealthy people who have beachfront property could access the beach. And as Marcia says, access to basically nature is a
Yeah.
necessity. It's not an amenity. And the fact that only a few have that is just a terrible tragedy. And we see that with COVID cases, especially in our community, going up. Because it's not just about mental health, but just overall health and exposure to vitamin D and everything that nature has to offer.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and coastal access, and maybe not so much in Los Angeles because we have a lot of public beaches that we enjoy. But I know that if you travel more north, there are places where basically, if you don't own the land in front of the ocean, you cannot access it. I love going to hikes to like the Center Coast, and it's actually hard to like, find a place where you can like just walk in and go and enjoy, and enjoy the beautiful pristine coast. And I know that there's a lot of fights
Right.
around having, coastal access. So that's an important work. The other work that I often talk about with my followers and the people that, like hear me, my rants about the environment, is this issue of fossil fuels, and how the fossil fuel industry also affects our oceans. So it's not just cars, because we drive. It's still not everybody, but we still, a lot of the community still drives cars that are powered by crude like gas. Some people still have in their homes stoves that are gas, right? And that's also just getting that resource. And the other thing is that the fossil fuel industry found a very smart way to sell us on and to hook us on this issue of plastic. And a couple of years ago, I worked on banning the single use of plastic bag, and we only thought that we were almost there,
Yeah.
and COVID came, and it took it kind of all away, because then the plastic really came back. So, what has been your experience and the work that you have been doing around plastic pollution?
So we know that, like you said, I mean, plastic pollution is basically it comes from fossil fuels. And
Mhm.
in LA, we have the whole microcosm of how I call it a death cycle, not a life cycle of plastics. it's, it starts with drilling, and we have it in our neighborhoods, and we have it everywhere in Southern California.
Uh-huh.
And that's just something that is basically poisoning a lot of people, a lot of our families. And it starts there. Then we transport that crude and that oil to refineries, and where it kills more people, not only at the refineries with the emissions, but also how we transport it, because that's through freeways and through pipelines. And
Yeah.
my motto is that the only pipeline that doesn't leak is the one that is never built. So
Yeah. Yeah.
seriously, and at the refinery, we pollute more, we poison more people, and then after that, we send it to a manufacturing facility where plastics get done. And where are those refineries and those manufacturing facilities? Again, where where low
Color.
income color live,
Yeah.
and we pollute more, we poison more people, and then we produce these cheap goods that are targeted to low income people of color again, and especially footwear, where when you eat out of that footwear that is made out of plastic, you get exposed to even more poison. And
Mhm.
once you use it and you throw it away, there's no way. So there's a landfill, then there's the incinerator, and there's other things that, again, all that infrastructure is, again, not in places where wealthy people live or white people live. Is mostly, again, people of color.
Mhm.
So the whole cycle is just terrible. It's an environmental injustice. So when you look at all that, it's like we need to stop. We need to stop at the source. We need to stop drilling because plastic is a fossil fuel
Yeah.
and it's poisoning our communities and it's causing climate change. So we need to stop there and the emissions that come with it and the way it's poisoning our communities. So I think as we emerge from COVID, we really need to think about how we're going to do that and how we're going to do that in an equitable way and in a way that we are solving problems, not we're going to contribute to them, like right now in the way that they're trying to sell us plastic bags, disposable plastic bags, as a way to avoid COVID, because we know that's not how it's transmitted.
Yeah, totally. And I want to just invite the people that are watching to ask questions about this topic. But I also would love for folks to just look around your house right now. Look, I use a tripod and it's made of plastic. Some of it's metal, but some of it's plastic. I have been a little sick with a cold, and even my dropper with Chinese medicine. This piece is made of plastic. You know, I mean, all over. Like I can look and glimpse the nuts that I'm being. My organic nuts is they're also in a plastic, bag. So it's a real relationship that we have to plastic that we sometimes don't even realize that we have, and that we need to think about. So now a lot of us that have a stay home because obviously because of the pandemic that are not going to the store, we have exacerbated the problem in a lot of ways. If you are someone that is ordering stuff online all the time, you know, um, this is a real issue because when you order stuff, there's the carbon footprint of delivering is so vast in so many ways. And I would love you out of all people, I know that you know this subject really well. You can break it down because you go real far out to like all the pieces. So please grab us, grab us by the hand and take us through this process. So when I order, I don't know, let's say some groceries, which I think it has become a lot more common. Tell us about how plastic is influencing that, how's the fossil fuel industry, and how that is contributing to more emissions and to our world.
So of course, it depends on how you order them and the product in specific. And we know a lot of the plastics are basically now wrapping food and wrapping other goods that we order.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those goods are now going into the Inland Empire. And that means we're building more warehouses, not just to hold those goods, but also to hold the plastics that are going to package these goods and also the cardboard that is going to basically hold these goods that are going to be delivered to you.
Right.
So we're basically increasing emissions not just by having all that stuff being transported from the port of Long Beach or the port of LA to the facility, but then onto you. And
Mm-hmm.
once that gets to you, you have to dispose of that somehow. You're not going to keep all the car box and all that plastic in your house.
Uh-huh.
And one thing that I've seen is more people getting those blue bins, really contributing what we call wish cycling, because people really think that we're going to be able to recycle all that stuff when a lot of it is just going to go to the landfill or an incinerator. So
So
we
all
really
the
need to
plastic
rethink.
also doesn't get recycled.
And I think one of the things that very few people know is that just because something has those chasing arrows, that little triangle with the arrows, doesn't mean that it's going to get recycled.
Right.
So we really need to bear in mind that not everything gets recycled. Usually, like the ones that anything that has PET, might get recycled and
Uh-huh.
might, because a lot of the stuff just doesn't have any value, and it's really hard to get recycled. So we really have to rethink how we're using or abusing our resources, and how can
Right.
we live in a way that we just don't dispose of that much stuff. Now, also we have the issue of what we call zero-use plastics, all the stuff that they put in your order when you order takeout.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Yes. Yes.
So,
Yes.
I mean, raise your hand
But
if
like
you
the
have a
utensils,
drawer.
the
Yeah,
plates, and they also put them in plastic bags. And
of
then you
course.
order it goes in a plastic bag. So it's just like a parade of plastic. Yeah.
So raise your hand if you have a drawer full of those stuff, And we call it zero use plastic because no one is using it. It just goes into the drawer because when you get food, you just want to get you just want to eat it eating your own utensils.
Yeah.
So anyways, just we really have to think about how we're doing our our whole how we're living our lives, how we're contributing to this problem, and how can we be part of the solution. I think that's the most important part.
Yeah. And somebody is asking a really good question, which is what materials can be substituted for plastic? And that is so okay. So I love in the recycle world, we talk about recycle, reuse. Wait, it's three phrases, Andrea. Which one? Remind me of the third one. I can remember the third one. So please, audience, help me out. It's like recycle, reuse. It's basically three pieces.
And recycle,
And
but we should really not have, I mean, recycle should be really the very last R. We should really be thinking about reusing and reducing. Like, do we really need to buy X, Y, and Z? Do we really need this item? Can we use something that we already have?
yeah.
I think that's the most important part.
So I want to give just a tip for folks that are watching and are asking what materials or how can you substitute. So we all go to so for the ones that are still going to the supermarket, and sometimes that happened to me. I always bring my plastic, my reusable bags. I have tons of reusable bags in the back of my car. I just keep them there because I figured that's where when I go out I'm gonna use them. And sometimes at Trader Joe's, for example, sometimes they would not allow my bag.
Right.
They would be like, no, don't bring your bag. And I was like, all right, that's cool. So what I'll do is I'll bring the cart, I do my shopping, I pay, I put everything in the cart, and I take the cart to my cart. And that's when I put everything in my reusable bags. Even though Trader Joe's is a little better because they use paper instead of plastic. But still, this is not, we need to think about, guys, we need to start thinking about how to also, we consume less. So another example that I have is I have curly hair and I use a lot of like shampoo and things like that to like control the curls. So instead of buying like the little shampoo or whatever the shampoo, I try to buy gallons of shampoo. I buy gallons of soap. I literally buy big bulk area. Why? Because and this is also for my friends that love plastic bottles of water. Guys, we need to really move away from that. And Andrea, please talk to me about how bad are bottles of water. And then
Well,
I'll give the tip about how to deal
the
with that.
problem with bottles of water is the problem with bottles of water is not only basically water wrapped in oil, because that's what it is.
Basically, that's plastic.
It's another way of privatizing water.
Yes.
So I mean, anyone selling you water is and that water is super expensive. I mean, if you compare it to water that you can get out of your tap, and if you don't really want to drink that, I mean, you can do what I do, which is filter that water. And
Yeah.
filters are so much more cheaper than buying bottled water and hauling that water into your house. I think the only bottled water that is acceptable to have, there you go. The only water that is acceptable to have in a bottle in your house is the one for your earthquake kit. That's it.
Got it.
That's the only exception to the rule. Anything else is really, you should not be having that. I love bubbles in my water, so I have one of those machines that you put bubbles in your water. So I have my own soda water at home, and
it saves you money, guys,
it
because
does.
I also I go camping a lot, and of course I have a bottle actually that filters the water, so if I'm in a stream I can just kind of filter it and drink it. But then this bottle was given to me by the Azul family, which Andrea works for a cup. Like, it's been years. This bottle it goes way back. It's vintage, basically. And what I do is I buy, like, I filter my water when I'm home, and I refill these bottles. Yeah, so I'm one of those people that is drinking from this bottle at home. But guys, like, we can, and I try to tell people, oh yeah, it's practical. Like, they just give me the bottle of water and on set. Like, I have friends that are in like, the entertainment industry, and I'm like, please ask them to stop doing that, to get like the big gallon, like the big bottles, gallons of water, so that people can refill in their reusable cup or something like that. Like, that's something that we should become a little more, as it should become more acceptable, to us. So that would be my tip for you guys.
Well, and the other problem with bottled water is that if you're drinking bottled water, you're basically drinking a lot more microplastics.
Let's talk about that and how you found it in the air. I saw the article. Tell us more about that.
So that's another issue. It's not just plastics in general and the chemicals that leach into your food if you're eating out of something that is made out of plastic, or eating, anything that has been heated in plastic. But also, if you're drinking out of bottled water, that means you don't know if it has been exposed to a lot of heat in a warehouse before it was shipped to you, or you forgot your bottle in your car and it was exposed to a lot of heat. That leaches a lot more toxins into your body. So you really need to be sure that you're not, again, being exposed to those chemicals. So there's that. Now we know now that even without that, we're drinking microplastics because of the sheer amount of plastics that we now have in our environment. Because people, again, think that a lot of this stuff is getting recycled. We know that less than 9% of plastics get recycled now. So that means there's a lot of plastics that are out there in our environment, in landfills, in oceans, in waterways, that are just, breaking down little by little and dropping little pieces of plastics everywhere. So that means they're in the air, then they're in the ocean, they're in our water, and now we even found them in placenta. I mean, that's just how crazy this thing is. So unless we really close the tap in terms of how much oil we're extracting to develop plastics, this is not going to stop.
Yeah.
And I just found out 2 days ago, the number one export out of Long Beach is plastic pellets. So we are even using our own resources. That means our water, our electricity, and our basically a whole system here to create those plastics, to import plastics elsewhere. And that's just not sustainable.
I mean, I was really, really amazed a couple of years ago when in California, when we banned micro, no, it has a different name. The one that we used to use in our face.
Microbeads. Yeah, microbeads.
Microbeads, guys. I mean, I had him. I'm guilty. So I was so guilty. I had him in all flavors and colors. I thought it was the greatest thing for my face. I loved it. I loved to massage it every night and all that. And I didn't realize I was literally just exposing my skin to more pollution. And those microbeads were going in the water, and they were so tiny that they were getting to the water stream and polluting not just the ocean, but all sorts of water streams, because there are people that that they live inland. And it was just so bad. So in California, we were able to ban that and not, and like stop the sales of those, but it's not nearly enough.
No.
Somebody's asking that if they should be microwaving their food in reusable Tupperware. Okay.
Well, if the Tupperware is made out of plastic, it's not a good idea. I mean, I actually replaced most of my containers to be glass. And I mean, the lid is going to be plastic, but I usually, if I'm reheating something, I take the top off and I just heat anything in glass. And that's the safest way of doing it.
Yeah, totally. What I also done, just to even support the system all together, is to sometimes, there are like olives come in glass, and like those type of containers. Guys, I save all those containers. I'm one of those people. I regrow my plants. When my plants have babies, I put the babies in there, and I save all of that, and that all of that, like, it's really helpful. Why? Because think about it. You have the yogurt. If you eat yogurt or whatever cheese. I don't know. Like there's so many containers. Just open your refrigerator and see nothing but containers.
Yeah.
So if you open if you do that, just save your containers and reuse them. And try to. I wish we could pass an ordinance where like all this to go food, we could bring our own, stuff so that they can put like our food in there instead of like, oh my God, if you eat a lot of takeout, you're
Yeah,
contributing to the problem.
exactly. Well, and actually there's an ordinance, I think at the state level, where you can actually bring your own container, but a lot of places are putting um, excuses and they're citing the health department for whatever reason. So we still have some fixes to do at the state level to make
Yeah,
sure that that could be done. Yeah, so but again,
absolutely.
there's no reason why we cannot bring our own containers to pack food or yeah.
Or soap, get soap or like your hair products. Like I said, I dream with the day where I can bring my gallon and say, hey, can you put more shampoo in here? I'm taking 2 pounds of shampoo or whatever it is,
Yeah.
or many ounces of shampoo. So that would be great. So I just want to shift the conversation a little more about this this week's Oceans Day. And I'm wondering if you can just share with us what happens in Oceans Day when Azul organizes an Ocean Day. What do you guys do?
So it's really exciting. We get all together and we have usually a keynote speaker who kind of brings it all in and just tells us kind of what is going on nowadays. But the most exciting part is when we kind of go into different groups and we have what we call lobby day. And we go into different offices and we basically tell our legislative body why the ocean is important to us and why
Mhm.
access to the ocean is important to us. And kind of the stuff that we have been talking about, why we really need less plastics and why we really need to take care of our community. Because again, like plastic is not just an ocean issue, it's an environmental justice issue.
Yeah,
And it
absolutely.
doesn't affect people who just live by the coast, it affects everyone,
Yep.
from drilling to uh, anyone who lives next to a refinery or a landfill. And we need to make sure that our gente is really, you know, taken care of. And right now it's not. Um, one of the things that I keep saying is that right now, or for a long time, um, they say that if you're not sitting at the table, you're on the menu, and we have
Yeah.
been on the menu for far too long. So it's time for us to get a seat at the table and say, enough is enough. We have been hit by COVID really hard and the economic crisis. So how are we going to emerge from this? How can we be part of the solution? And how can we have a good green economy where we can all participate?
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we're coming from. And then everyone gets to speak. This year, because of the pandemic, it was all done online by Zoom. So we just kind of had to adapt that way and let everyone participate through that digital platform.
Mhm.
So it was a little different. There were a few kinks here and there, but we worked them out. And I think it was great. And I got to talk on a campaign that we have to ensure that we keep and preserve the human right to water, because right now they're trying to build a desalination plant in Huntington Beach that will
Okay.
not only devastate the ocean, but also will raise water rates and pollute the air. And there's like an array of issues that are connected to this desalination plant, including public money that will be used to build it instead of going to build affordable housing. So just building basically a coalition of Latinos who come together and express our concerns on different issues that have to do with coasts and oceans.
And just tell us a little bit for those of you and the audience that don't know what is desalination.
So desalination is the most expensive and the most energy intensive way to get water.
Mhm.
And I know that when we're all kids and they tell us that three-fourths of the earth is water, and we see all these ocean water, it's like, why can't we just get the salt out of it and just drink it? And it sounds good, but once you start getting to the nitty-gritty, you start seeing all these different problems. And right now, the way the technology works is that you can only take the salt out of half of the water that you get, and the other half is this thick brine that they dump back into the ocean. And even with the intakes, you have all this marine life that gets sucked in, that basically dies. And when they dump all that brine back into the ocean, it kills more marine life. So you have this dead zone everywhere, in addition to using a huge amount of energy to desal the water. And the plant in Huntington Beach that they want to build is actually by Poseidon, and the parent company of Poseidon is Brookfield. And Brookfield is a foreign corporation. So we're talking about profits not only not staying in California, but not even staying in the US. And they want to build this plant with public money. So there's an array of issues that come with this. And with this, because it costs so much and it's so energy intensive, water bills will go up. And just about 3 weeks ago, we got a report from the State Water Board that we have right now about $1 billion in debt from water bills in the state. So if we're going to invest any money into water, I think it should really go to alleviate that debt from our people, and to really invest in energy and in water efficiency, and to make sure that we have solutions that are not only easy on the planet, but on the pocketbooks or families, and just something that makes sense. A lot of people tell me, well, Israel has these plants. But if you start thinking about that, people in Israel use about a third of the water that we use. So we haven't really,
it's a very small country. You're right.
Well, it's not only a small country, but the people use a lot less water than we do.
Yeah.
And they're a lot smarter with how they use their water.
Yeah.
So what are we doing to use less water and use it in a wise way? So we really have a long way to go. We're not saying we should never desal water. We're just saying right now it's not needed. It will hurt people, and especially people who cannot, just pay for this really expensive water.
Yeah, I mean, imagine, guys. Let me take you into this imaginary journey. Imagine that what we're trying to do is take the ocean water, bring it somewhere, take the salt, make it fresh, dump all the salt back to the ocean, and then use the water. I mean, for some people, that might be the greatest science experiment that they're seeing. Great. But to me, that's also bringing another big issue, another and contributing to another part of the problem. If you put more salt, and I mean, that's got to create an imbalance, or it creates an imbalance in the pH, in the in the pH of the ocean water. It kills the marine water, and at the end of the day, it affects our food chain, which is something that people don't sometimes think about when they think about oceans. So would you tell us a little more about, oh, I see somebody join from Azul. Maybe they can also join this conversation. But can you tell us more about what how all this plastic pollution, how not taking care of our oceans is also affecting our food supply?
So again, if we don't really start analyzing how we're living and how different policies are affecting everything around us, we really need to pay attention. With plastics, it's not just the stomach of the fish that end up full of plastics, but even their flesh. And with desal, I mean, in terms of food supply, again, right now there's a lot of people who go to the pier to fish. And again, a lot of people are hurting. So a lot of people, this is their food supply. If we end up creating a dead zone, where are those families going to go to fish for their livelihood? Now, there's also a lot of studies that had not been conducted yet in terms of this facility. What's going to happen with sea level rise? What's going to happen with the Newport Fault if there's an earthquake? Yeah. And one thing, because we already know the pattern of Poseidon in terms of Carlsbad. They have dumped a lot more brine than they said they would, and other chemicals into the ocean. The plant was shuttered last year because they had a red tide. So when they say that this is a climate resilient way to get water, it's not really that way. And once they started operating, the price started just going up every year. So we know this is going to be really expensive water. They're just going to keep going up and up and up. Now, for this plant in Huntington Beach, they want a 50-year take-or-pay contract. So that means we have to pay for the water whether we need it or not. And after 50 years, they want to hand over the plant back to Californians for us to pay to decommission it. So
So
any
guys,
way you look at it.
basically this idea of that the corporations are running the show is clearly illustrated in this example. And it's just so unfair that at the end of the day, we, the people that pay for the bill, pay for double of the bill. And at the end, when it comes to the point of mitigating, uh, you know, this climate emergency, we also have to pay for it.
Right.
I mean, we see it every day. So I hope that this conversation is bringing you light to what's happening with our oceans. I know that we love to go. I love going to watch the sunsets, and it's my greatest joy, to meet friends at the beach, and especially now with the coronavirus, it's been so great because you can observe social distancing, and it feels relaxing. So there is so much more that are happening to our oceans that we know about. So I'm so glad that we're having this conversation. What are some of the latest policies that are being negotiated and pushed in terms of the advocates in Sacramento, at least, when it comes to ocean conservation?
Well, there's going to be a few bills coming up in terms of sea level rise and what we do about that and how we handle that. So we clearly are going to support some of those. There's one bill that is just not good in terms of building seawalls, because we just know that that doesn't work. That just kind of pushing the can down the road, and we just don't need that. We need to really invest in sensible and sustainable solutions. And we also have some exciting bills coming up, or ordinances at the city and county levels. The first bills are kind of baby steps in terms of asking restaurants and delivery services to only include those zero-use utensils, as we call them, upon request, so that we don't just get them. Yeah, I mean, and that includes also those little packets of condiments and everything, because again,
And
if
the
you don't need them.
straws. Oh my God, I'm so appalled that even when they pass the ordinance about request a straw by request, everybody will give you straws. I will always be like, I'm sorry, I don't need a straw. Yeah.
So that's the first step, and the next step is going to be a harder lift, but we're going to embrace it in terms of reusables, and we're just ironing some kinks out. But right now we're just excited just to make sure that those zero-use plastics don't make it into houses where again we don't need them. So I think we should have those sometime this year. Again, at the LA city and LA county level. At the state level, there's going to be other plastics bills, and I think we're going to have next year a ballot measure in terms of regulating plastic and plastic recycling.
Wow.
And so I think good stuff is coming down the pipe, and in terms of regulating that, and just again having less of it making it into our houses.
Yeah, I'm looking at the chat and to see if people are asking a lot of people are just like, wow, this is such a great information. I didn't know. Feel free to ask any questions. If you guys have any questions, you can post them on the chat, both on Instagram or on Facebook. If you're watching on Twitter, on Twitch, you can always, if they'll come, we get to see them. How someone that is interested in working with you or working with Azul can join the fight with you guys to conserve and to preserve our oceans?
So we have we're on social media, on Twitter, on Facebook, and on Instagram, azul.org, AZULDOT.org. That's so if you just look us up that way. And on Facebook, we usually have event pages that we set up when we have actions or we have events, like we had yesterday for Ocean Day California. And we recruit folks that way. We're also building up now our mailing list, and we have other stuff that is coming up that's super exciting. We also have a plastic report that is coming out, and as soon as we do, we'll share it with everyone. That is, again, there's so much stuff that is coming out that we're super excited about. And again, just join us on social media, like us, and we'll share everything that is coming out.
There you go. Azul is putting it in here. Boom, boom, boom. I just pin it. Um, I guess my last question, just to start closing down, since folks are now asking a lot of questions, they're just more amazed of all the information that we're sharing. If you could give people 3 tips that they can do, something simple that they can do right now, so that they can contribute to less plastic pollution, less ocean pollution, more access to the coast and to the oceans. Um, what would be 3 things that people can do right now?
So first thing, I want to make sure that everyone knows that every California beach is public, because
Yeah.
not everyone knows that. And a lot of our people get harassed. And we do have a Know Your Rights card that, if you want to reach out, I can send you a copy, and basically has a diagram inside also, like, that indicates like what part of the beach is public and what part is private, and even a call out box so in English to let people know, hey, say, like, no beach is private in California. So that's one thing that we do have as a tool for anyone who enjoys the beach and may get harassed. Another one is, again, we're in this fight for the long term. So join us. We'll share a bunch of more information and super exciting things to come in our social media platforms. And again, it's anything that you can do in your own community and at the larger level, national level. So there's that. And then the last one would be, like, know who's representing you, because those
Yep.
are the people, those are the regulators, those are the people who really have a lot of power. And if they hear from you, you can have a lot of influence on them to make the change that we need.
Yeah, absolutely. That was going to be one of my tips, to say that you should definitely get involved, guys. That's all, actually my hashtag. Get involved. Understand who are the players in your city and in your state and in the country. It's not only Biden and AOC and Kamala and Trump, but it's not just them. There is so much more happening at the local level, at the state level, that we can influence and do. So it's so important that you vote, that you also ask your elected officials to not take fossil fuel money. That's really important, because these are the people that are polluting our oceans, polluting our environment, polluting our political process. So please, when you find a candidate that you love or that you want to support, tweet at them, ask them, have you signed the no fossil fuel pledge? Are you not taking money from the fossil fuel industry? Those things are important, are very important. And like I said, get involved. There is there's the Azul information is here. You can find them online. I know that there is a lot of other ways to mitigate the use of plastic, especially. Again, just remember that you can be part of the solution by just reusing more things, and um by trying to think about how you can, like, use less plastic. Okay, Andrea, thank you so much for joining us. I usually leave my live streams by asking my, the guests on my live stream, what do they love to do for fun? So if you can share with us a little bit about, like, what are some of the things that you love to do for fun?
Well, I love walking my dog, and I love gardening in my backyard, like
Yeah,
organic gardening, because then where you're growing and what you're putting into your belly.
absolutely. I knew you were going to talk about your dog. So cute. Well, thank you so much, and I hope that when you have the report out, you let us know so we can have you back and we can go over the report. And maybe I can post the report before so people can kind of see it. But this is how we're getting educated, right? This is how we're learning, beyond, but beyond what we already kind of know through because who's telling you guys not to use plastic? Who's telling you all this analysis about when you order something from Amazon or for whatever other website, how that is also causing a big problem in our oceans? Nobody. So we really need to rely on each other and educate ourselves and create more awareness. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, and we'll
Be
have you.
safe, everyone.
Yes, absolutely. So that was Andrea Leon Grossman. Oh, she's still here on Instagram, but that's okay. She can be. Thank you all so much for participating. This was such a great, opportunity for us to have a conversation about our oceans, about the is still all the reach and the influence of the fossil fuel industry and how we can mitigate the effects of plastic pollution. You have the key. You have the opportunity to also be a player and to change that. So be part of the solution, get involved. We give you enough tips. If you feel that this was information that a friend or your community can benefit from, share it with them on your social media. And the conversation is it always continues in my social media channels. Thank you guys, and we'll talk very soon. Bye bye.